She's gonna start the YouTube again, so I don't know if it's ready or not, but I'm ready.
Let's go. Are they ready? They're ready back there. Miss Cron, they're ready. Let's go.
Are we ready? Thank you. Floor is yours, Miss Whitaker.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll wipe it again. I was fast. All right. So we are going to return to the decision points that you have before you so that we can look at decision point 14 and decision point 15. Decision point 14 speaks to the phase and level under which we will begin operation of schools. And decision point 15 is going to ask you on the date that we will do that. So for decision point 14, option 1 is to stay as planned, phase 3, level 2. And option 2 would be a different phase and level as determined by the school board.
Board members, Mr. Chabaka, are you here? Make sure.
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Make sure you're back.
Took a nap.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Yes, Dr. Board members, floor is yours on your opinions on what to do.
You know, I guess I'll go ahead and go first. I've had a lot of people that have reached out. I think we all have this week, and many people have said to me, you know, well, good luck. You know, I'd hate to have to be in your shoes. It's such a hard decision that you guys have to do. And I will say, I in no way want to minimize the difficulty of this decision or the difficulty of the impact of the decision is maybe a more accurate way of saying it. I realize that childcare is an issue, that people have jobs, you know, 2 working parents. I mean, I'm in one of those families, so it's a difficulty for us too. But, you know, what we're dealing with here and what we're weighing and what we've been seeing, honestly, for me, I don't find this to be, to me, this is a little bit more clear cut. It's not a difficult decision to make to protect students, to protect children, to protect staff, and to err to the side of caution on this. I appreciate Dr. Bissler's input. I think it gives me, you know, some of what she said makes a lot of sense, and I think it gives me a lot of confidence that we can get to where we need to get. But, you know, I'm also very aware of the science. I'm aware of other things that have been happening in other areas of the state and other areas of the country when people said, we're going to go off in this direction. And everybody said, that really kind of goes against the science and you're going to have problems. And, you know, unfortunately, the problems take 8 to 10 weeks to really start to see and to really start to make the news. And I don't want to see that happening here. I don't see too much of a downside overall to being cautious and to trying to ramp up more slowly. And the way that I see it, there's 2 things that that we can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will, by being a little bit more cautious. Number 1 is having an influx of 20 to 30,000 new people coming into this county who have been living all over the world, really, absolutely creates a risk and absolutely increases the chances that we will have an outbreak or that we will have more cases than we would normally do. And I think that it would be prudent to, I think, wait a little bit to see what happens after that influx comes in. And I totally disagree with the conversation that happened at the very end with Dr. Bissler. I do not agree that we are just kicking a can down the road. That's not the way that these types of infectious diseases, I think, work. I think that there's a greater chance that we will see more people infected. Now, it may be that we would see a number that would still not overwhelm our health system. And I think Dr. Bissler was clear that that is her department's goal. But, you know, my goal is going to be to to save lives of children and staff, but also to instill confidence. There's a human element to all of this, and whether or not you think the fear is warranted or not, the fear is out there and it is growing. And I think that if we take a more cautious approach, I think that that's going to have other effects. And lastly, I think if we start off 100% remote and then ramp up, the in-person learning, I think that one of the effects that that's going to have is that we're going to be able to have, one thing that we absolutely have to be able to do in all of this is the remote learning. Even at 50%, 50% of the education is going to be remote. And so, and I appreciate what Mr. Wickham has been doing, and I appreciate all the teachers that have been doing some of the voluntary work, but there's going to be hiccups in this. And one of the things that I think I learned from the spring is I think it's better to take a little bit more time and roll something out that people are going to have confidence in the long term, because we're going to need it. So that's my inclination right now.
I'm gonna just tag on to Mark, because I think I have very similar beliefs, and I think most people this evening have already kind of have an idea of where I stand on all of this. But just to reiterate a couple of things, I am generally not a cautious person. I'm a risk taker, but in this case, I feel like I do not want to take risks with the lives of our students and our teachers. And I heard what Dr. Bissell said, and I don't necessarily, I don't know, say agree, but I think that she has a point of view that is not the same as my point of view. And some of it was science-based and some of it was not. Was more personal based and what she believed, and that's fine. But I think that my concern is that if we get started, and then all of a sudden we have to stop, and then we've got to go back, and then we've got to go forward, and now you've got sick students, you've got some sick teachers. It's going to make implementation even more difficult if that happens. I think that easing into the whole thing, and by the way, I appreciate, I know everyone has worked tirelessly. I can't say that enough. I realize how much time and effort everyone has put into these plans, and they will get implemented at some point. But I think that trying to go back now, going on August 13th at 50%, is we're taking chances that don't need to be taken. And I understand the implications to parents and that students want to get back to school. And I have plenty of teacher friends who are really itching to get back in the classroom and probably don't agree with me. But I think that it's best that we maybe put off the start date for a little bit, for a couple of weeks, to give people a chance to, August 13th is only, what, 2 weeks away? That's not very long from now, and teachers have a lot to get done. And give parents a chance to get organized. We start a couple of weeks late, and we start remotely, and then we wait till the students get back into the area, and maybe go 50% after the first quarter or something like that. I just think that in this case, this is one of those decisions that we tend sometimes rush into things because we think it's the best thing to do when we really are anxious to put these plans into place. But I think in this case, we need to take our time, really think through everything, and this gives us an opportunity to just really make sure that everything gels. Because right now we're still, and even tonight, we're talking through a whole bunch of things we don't even 100% agree on, and some things that are still a little bit up in the air. Why not take a little bit of time and just make all of that gel so that we're really ready to hit the ground running when it's time? And then that's how I feel. So, and in looking at these at 14 and 15, I think that a different phase and level need to be determined, and I would probably suggest we move the start date till at least August 27th or maybe even after Labor Day.
I would like to say that Dr. Bissell is certainly the expert. She knows more about science than anyone in this room. And I feel like we are at a point where our students need to be in school. The mental part of it has bothered me since we closed back in March. And just like Dr. Bissell said, I think we're going to see much higher numbers of child abuse, and I have lots of concerns about our kids' welfare. Um, and I think the social piece of that is so important to them. You know, Dr. Bissell alluded to that with her child, but I've heard it. we have administration here at the school board office that have seen that with their own children. We have parents who mentioned it over and over again. I feel like the task force that we have is going to take care of us, and they will do our best to contain things as quickly as possible. Um, and I know that teachers have a lot of anxiety, and their anxiety is real, and we have to appreciate that and acknowledge it. Um, and let them know that we are truly taking care of them. I mean, that the plan that the administrative team has put together should show people that we have thought of so many things to ensure their safety. So I appreciate that everybody's work on the team, and I would like to keep the phase the way it is, and the level and the start date.
Any other board members?
Okay, so I said very early on where I was at with this. And as the conversation has gone on this evening, it's just reinforced that what I'm feeling is, I believe, the right thing. Uh, we don't have enough folks on our buses. We don't have enough custodians, which is key to help keep things clean. We don't have enough cafeteria workers. Um, these are the backbone, you know. The work that has been done on this plan is just amazing. You know, I can't remember which one of you all said you've seen them across the country, across the state, and it's one of the best. And from everything that I have been hearing, I have to agree with that. As far as the process that has gone on with this, I don't necessarily agree with every little point of it. Um, I am truly concerned about our students. I'm concerned about their safety, how they're learning, how they're not learning. Um, from the very beginning, I have been telling you why this makes me very nervous, but this is uncharted territory. We have never had to deal with anything like this before. And with everything on this side that makes me nervous about children being out of school, bringing them back to school, when we don't have everything we can possibly have in place, makes me more nervous that that child I may try to bring up to where they need to be will no longer be there for me to bring them up to where they need to be because they won't be here. Or one of our other staff folks won't be here, or a family member won't because of spread. Yes, it's going to happen because we're bringing new people in. Folks are going on vacation, bringing stuff in. You know, cases are going to go up. They already have started going up in the area. Uh, I just cannot imagine bringing students back on the 13th. Labor Day, I can entertain having, looking to see where things are at, starting remotely. Um, I think the plan that is in place is a good plan. So under question 14, I would say add a third saying start later, you know, but, and keep the same phase and level that we're at. Because I think there's too much work and too much time and effort has gone into preparing this to think about trying to tweak that. I mean, just the thought of what our special ed folks would have to go through, I'm not putting anybody through that. No, that would just be crazy. So I think there should be, that we keep the same level, but start at a different point for, as far as question 14. And, you know, Labor Day on 15 is for me less when we start remotely, because I don't know that we're going to have all the people in place to be able to keep our buildings clean, to be able to have substitutes for our teachers, folks to provide meals the way we need to provide the meals. So that's where I'm at with this.
Any other board members? Here we go.
I'm going to have to echo kind of what Marty's saying. I've dealt with Dr. Bissell quite a few times just from my own personal knowledge, and to give me some sort of feeling, since she is the expert, and I know that there has been many differing opinions out there depending on what news show you watch, what newspaper you read, because one's going to say one and the other one's going to say exactly the opposite. So there's a lot of confusion, and I get it. I've been confused. She has helped me tremendously. I've also talked with a lot of doctors and a friend who just happens to be a really good epidemiologist that's in our area, and they have clarified a lot of confusion for me. I feel pretty safe when I say that when she gives me the numbers of the people who are, I've gotten a lot of, as well as the other board members, concerns about sick and death. But when she gives me the numbers here about the death issue, I'm not, it's not that it doesn't concern me. I feel confident in what she's telling me of what we can take care of and what we can expect. I feel our teachers, I've heard you, I haven't been able to get back to everyone, been bombarded with emails, but thank you for sending your opinions. I do appreciate that, and I do understand. But at the same time, I personally have a daughter who is in the schools right now, and if I thought it was anywhere unsafe for me to send my own child back, I wouldn't. So that's how confident I feel, that I feel like this is okay. I have watched her go downhill with the remote learning. She's a good student. She's a straight A student. I feel like there's so much more to school than just the book side of it that our kids are missing. I've had several doctors and experts tell me that they have seen so many kids since March that have dealt with depression, that have dealt with all of these other things that are in time given just as detrimental as the virus could be at some point. I know, in the beginning, before the virus hit, everyone was really engaged with mental health, and that was seen as an illness. People wanted that to be seen as an illness, and that still should be seen as an illness. So that has risen. Dr. Bissell made the point of saying this is a virus, just like the flu, just like all of the other viruses that we have dealt with and taken precautions about. I'm not trying to make this sound any less important or undermine what this actual infection is, but I do want to say that I do fully entrust our Board of Health and our doctors and all of the things that they've gone to help us get and determine what we need to do and what we feel is best for where we are. I know a lot of people are comparing us to Northern Virginia and all of these other places, but in reality, we really can't compare ourselves to them because it is so different. Our numbers are so much lower. Our statistics are so much lower than those areas. I think the kids need to get back. They they have come to me and been begging me to send them back. I have not had one student email me or tell me that they are afraid to go back to school. Not one. Not trying to take away from how the teachers or anybody else feels. I do understand that there is some concern with the synchronized teaching, and I understand that, and how things are going to be done. I would entertain the thought of possibly going back remotely to get the teachers more acclimated to this schedule that we're actually wanting them to do. But I still think that if we do end up going back remotely in the beginning, I still think that we should keep, especially if it's remotely, because if the kids aren't there, we're not having to worry about the cleaning. We're not having to worry about any of that right now, and we are starting. So I would entertain the remote to get people where they need to be and to get what we need to be in place. But I do feel like if we do that, I still want to keep the August 13th start date and not push the start date back. And that's just my feeling on it.
Ms. Bowden?
Okay, for me, first off, I want to say just because we may think differently on when students need to go back, we wouldn't be doing this job if we didn't care about students, teachers, and faculty. We wouldn't be sitting here 10 hours, 11 hours today. So to say that we don't care about the students is unfair, just because somebody may want to get back into school. I'm basing my opinion on what I've heard, who I've talked to. I've talked to parents, I've talked to students, and I would think differently if I didn't every weekend go to different ballparks and see them completely packed with parents and students playing all over playgrounds together, probably 175 kids. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying I see that. And I talk to parents that are going on vacations and they're going to, oh, well, we're going to be careful. We're going to take it easy. We're going to eat in. That's great. It's their choice. But I've also talked to many parents that are concerned about education because pretty much said, you know, I don't know that my child got anything from the time that we got out of school. And it's no disrespect to those parents, they're trying. But I may have kept a business open for 30 years, but I couldn't teach my child what they need to know as far as educational purposes because and we've talked about it many times, the way students are educated in today's society are much different than the way we learned. And I think that makes a huge difference. And we have to look at what in years is going to affect our accreditation. And I'm not saying at the cost of any student, any parent, any teacher. We take chances just like we were listening, you know, in the things that we do every day. So I'm going to vote. I'm again with Ms. Parton. I can entertain going a couple weeks remotely to get used to it. But I'm going to vote for the state as planned because we did vote for that. And parents have been planning for this. And now we're backtracking. And I have a problem with that because that's some of the things that, you know, we've done in the past and changed just very slightly and have gotten reprimanded over. And now we're thinking about changing something as huge as this, something we've already voted on. So I feel like parents have planned their work dates back. They've planned their daycares. They've planned things around what we made that decision on. And I'm going to stick with it. I am willing to variegate it a little bit for the remote learning. I'm willing to do that. But for me, that's all I'm willing to do.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Any other board members to add anything else before I share
I'd,
my
I'd like to
opinion?
clarify something that, that Miss Bond just said that I don't think is true at all. And that's that we voted on, that we voted on a schedule is what we voted on. That's what I was told we were voting on when we met in June. Because when we met in June, I told the staff, I had a conversation when we had we had an emergency meeting, and I remember having a conversation with Mr. Pauly about the whole bus situation. And I told him, I'm fine putting these options on, but just because I'm voting for the mitigation on the bus doesn't mean that I'm voting for 50%. And when we went in that meeting, it was a public meeting. We can go back and look at it. And I remember I said it. I remember Miss Franklin saying something to the effect. We were asking about whatever, this is a plan, this is a schedule that the staff said we need a schedule in order to even begin to have some kind of a plan for how we go back. And you guys can decide later how you want to dial that in. You want to start fully remote and then go up to 50% or 100%, you can do that. And I think that's been pretty clear from the beginning. Now, I agree with you, Ms. Bond, that's probably confusing to parents that we did things that way, and which is why I didn't really want to do things that way. But we had to start somewhere, and this is what the staff, wanted us to do. But I just, for clarity on that, I want to be clear that we did not vote on the percentage that we were going to go back. We voted on the schedule in a way that we would go back. So there's a difference between those two things.
And at that meeting, I remember you, Mr. Chabaka, I think Ms. Franklin and we all were concerned about August 13 start day. So I think we did vote for the schedule because we wanted to get something ready if we can be ready to start on the 13th. Well, we definitely, all of us care about the students and our teachers and our families. And I definitely trust that Dr. Bissell is an expert, and I'm not here to challenge, her science per se. And I, really, really, really very thankful for this document and what we have. And again, it's the best probably in the Commonwealth and all the divisions. I don't think anybody has 90-page document. That's for sure. And I know I trust that it's going to be the good plan to move forward. But this decision of mine is not that I don't appreciate the plan or I don't trust the NRV Health Department, which, by the way, we're very lucky to live in this area that we have that strong task force. Only thing I feel uncomfortable about is neither us, none of us here, no, neither the Dr. Bissell and her team had the student body of K through 12 and Radford and Virginia's student body at the same time, because the older kids were gone for spring break, and then we had to shut down. And since then, all we have very little amount of college kids, and of course, no students whatsoever. And I know not necessarily K through 12 is going to mingle with the college students, at their parties, but adults, we're going to be mingling with those college kids in the grocery store, in a restaurant, wherever we go, and the same thing valid for our teachers and staff too. So it's really, really worries me, and I really don't want to take a chance to any people's lives. And I know numbers are increasing because, of course, I receive so many emails for actually both sides, open or not open, and more teachers said no, don't open or open late. And I look at it because somebody made a comment that, you surveyed it and, 70% wanted to go back. Well, when we survey, and I looked at these numbers that how many cases we had in Southwest Virginia when we surveyed them in April and we surveyed them in May, well, it was, very little numbers, and I wrote them down somewhere, but I will look at it. So they were in 220, that's for sure, when we decide that, it is okay to go. But the cases are increasing because of the people going to vacation, because little by little college kids coming back. And so it may not be like Northern Virginia, and God forbid, I hope it won't like Northern Virginia or Florida. But I think there is reason to be concerned. It is our 6th day of instruction. It's going to be the day that probably numbers are going to go up due to Radford students. And in our 14th day of instruction, probably numbers going to go up due to the Virginia Tech students are back. So total 14-day instruction we're going to lose to make it a little safer if we decide to go on Labor Day and at least look at what is happening. And I hope I will be wrong. Nothing will go bad and the numbers will increase. And I hate to go back on the plan because it's really a great plan and I know it's so much work. So I feel like keep the plan, but move the start date. So that's how I feel. So I think we are probably ready to.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I know a lot of people are concerned about instruction and that the spring went so poorly and that there's a lot of concern that students weren't learning. But I think that a lot of work has been done by the people in this room to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I think that there is a lot more in place and people are more prepared for remote learning. And if we were to start out with remote learning, I don't know if it'd be, I don't believe, I don't believe it would be, I don't know, no one knows, but I don't believe it would be the negative that people are concerned it would be. I think that we've learned a lot in these last several months, and I'd rather see us, as Gunan said, be safe, give ourselves a chance to get started, and then ease into the terrific plan that you've put together. But I just think I just worry that we're moving too fast. So.
Are we ready to?
And I wonder.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Chabaka.
And I was wondering, I mean, I would also just propose, I came in kind of open to working with, whatever we needed to do to come to a better consensus amongst ourselves. And, I think there's some benefit to delaying, even if we start remote. But I think that we shouldn't delay too much. And I think that the concept of starting remote, I think, is a benefit to both our staff, not just from a health point of view, but also from a instructional point of view. And it sounds to me, that a compromise could be to start on time, but start remote. And, that could allay most of the fears, I think, that those of us who are uncomfortable with have stated. Now, I know, that Penny, Ms. Franklin and Ms. Karan would rather not change the plan, but I don't, I think the whole point with this plan is that it's supposed to be changeable. We're supposed to be able to dial it in, and that's what we were told. And we may not have we may not have any say in it in the future. If the governor, if we have an outbreak statewide, it may be decided for us. So I agree with what Ms. Cass said about the remote learning, and I do think that's something that we need to work on that. And one of the benefits of that, I think, is just that you learn to walk before you run a little bit on that. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, just real quick on question 14, we have 5 votes, so we're still missing 2.
We have to be careful also the saying remote learning for all, because that equity is a big issue when we say remote learning for all. So I don't know.
That causes some equity issues. Okay. On question 14, we now have 7 votes, and the consensus is option 1 to stay as planned, phase 3, level 2.
And can we confirm those? Because
So we all said stay as planned. phase
No.
3,
What
level
was
2.
the final tally?
No, what? Yeah.
71%,
it's 4-3,
Okay.
right?
4-3.
You said everybody answered. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
got it wrong. Yeah.
Everyone voted.
Everybody voted. Yeah.
It was 4.
Yeah, I think this is what I was talking about, though. I mean, I think that these two questions kind of go together, and I'm trying to get us to, I think the final tally should really be after we've discussed both of the questions about how we're going to do this. Because I hear 4 people that are not comfortable starting on August 13th.
I see what he's saying.
What a stay as planned means we start August 13th, 50% back in school.
No,
No.
this
No.
is
I think
stay
the
as planned with
phase
the
only.
phase
And
3
the next
level
question is
2.
to
Yes,
change
and the
the
next
date.
question is when you
Yeah.
So
start.
then
Right.
the next question is when we do phase
Right.
3 level
Mhm.
2.
Right. So
Okay.
so the majority
on that.
were, at least 4 consensus, were comfortable with keeping us at that same phase 3 level 2. Now on 15, the question is, do we start on the 13th or do we start after Labor Day or on the 27th of August?
Okay, but there's no option for remote learning, the thing that
Yeah.
was discussed. Is that
That would've
something that?
been-
Yeah, I'm totally
Your other
confused
phase.
now.
Remote
Those are the
learning.
other phases.
That would have been another phase. So
Yeah, yeah.
remote learning would be phase 1, and you
Yeah.
would choose a level within that phase, keeping in mind that our option for remote learning also affects our childcare. So if you look at, I can't read that
Yeah.
page number, Annie. What page is that?
It is page number, I can't read it, 8, I
Page
think.
8 in your book will show you those
I
phases.
see what you're saying.
And
I
so if you
gotcha.
guys want
I
to
read it.
take some time and go back and edit those votes, it would
No,
be
I'm fine.
changing the phase would determine
Mhm.
remote. Does
And
that help?
Okay,
I'm
so-
fine to rethink when I said start 2 weeks at remote learning. I'm fine with starting 2 weeks later. I mean, I'm okay with that, but I like the phase 3 level 2.
So phase
So-
3 level 2 is,
Half day.
what is that?
Phase 3 level
Off of
2.
50%.
Just like,
plan.
that's the
50%
that's what
of
I
kids,
said.
yes.
Everybody was
That's
saying
the
no.
plan we
Yes,
discussed.
that's the
all day
schedule that
today.
we're on now.
So phase 3 level 2 means we start everybody back in school 50% on August 13th.
No,
I
it
don't
doesn't
know
have the
that.
date. The
Doesn't have a date.
phase is the model. So the
Okay.
phase would be 50% of all
So
students.
if we
yeah.
choose move start date to September 8th, then that means we start onset, we don't do
You don't
anything
do
until
anything before
September
September
8th
8th.
at 50%. And so that's,
And then you would start at the 50%. It would just be a later start date. The remote would be a different
I
option.
see what
of
you're
that.
saying. I got it.
So we're,
So-
we're staying with the phase 3
Right.
level
Okay.
2, 50%.
Mhm.
Now the question is, when do we start?
Correct.
So that's not number
No.
15 now.
15
That's
is,
15.
yes.
Yeah.
Number 15.
Okay, and just to clarify, Virginia Tech comes back off August
24th.
3rd. The what?
24th of
The
August.
24th.
24th.
Okay. Okay, when
And,
does Radford
that-
come
But I
back?
think Virginia Tech is, the students are required to
the
come back.
12th?
I believe they're required to come back 2 weeks before, are they not?
I'm
Uh,
sorry, what?
yeah.
He asked if students were required to come back 2 weeks earlier.
I don't think
Sorry, let
all
me
of
take
them
that
have to be
No.
that early. I think the ones moving on campus have.
And they also have to be tested 5 days before they come, correctly?
What
correct?
Tech has said and what Radford has said, and again, they've told this to the task force, is that students who are living on campus will be tested
Yes.
once
Mhm.
they arrive.
Right.
Students who are off campus housing are requested that they be tested before they arrive.
Right, like 5 days. Because I want to say I read something.
Request,
Move-in begins
not
August
a
14th.
mandate.
Right. Requested is important on
Okay.
the off.
Okay. That's fine, but if that's the concern of a majority of the board, I mean, what Dr. Bissell said was that she would expect to see those cases. She wouldn't expect to see the effect of that for, I believe she said 4 to 6 weeks.
Mhm.
So I don't see how
2 to
the
4
eighth even
weeks.
really helps us too much.
Right. That is a kicking the can thing because
It is.
it would
Yeah,
just
so
be
it-
2 to
we
4
Can't wait
weeks.
Till
I agree.
October to start school,
Right.
Yeah, we can.
But we can start remotely.
not at phase 3 level 2, not to
Well,
start.
we can reconsider the vote.
Exactly. I mean, I think this is a discussion that really
I
is
don't think
about
we
the whole
all, everyone
topic, and
under, maybe understood exactly. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't matter. We don't need to be holden by by the questions in a serial manner. We can discuss
Right.
this whole thing and come to a conclusion on what we're going to do, and then we can try to fit it into the questions if that's the case. So, by my count, there's 4 members that are concerned about starting too early. And it sounds like, you know, Miss Franklin wants to push things. Miss Franklin and Miss Karan want to push things past Labor Day, well past Labor Day. Do you guys want to expand on that?
Why it is Labor Day? Is that what you asked? What was the question?
Well, you said, well, you don't want to start on the 13th. So given what we've heard tonight and whatnot, when would you want to start, I guess is the question.
Well, you know, my thought process was, since Radford's starting on August 12th, and anything that comes with the kids within the next, you know, 2 weeks is gonna show up. So within the 6 days of instruction, since we go only 4 days a week, we may see the numbers changing. And then, you know, with the same, you know, thought process, because Virginia Tech starts on the 24th, 2 weeks time will be Labor Day. So by that time, whatever is going to increase, it's going to increase. I mean, that's my thought process.
It won't make a difference whether our kids are in school or not as to the increase of the students' numbers.
I mean, we'll see more cases. That's what, you know.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah.
there'll be two things happening, Ms. Karan. There'll be, the cases will be spreading throughout the community, and Dr. Bissell said that will happen, right?
Mhm.
But we may not know, according to Dr. Bissell, we may not know for up to at least 4 weeks, if not more,
That's right.
what the effect of those cases would be. And so and so I agree with you. I understand your concern, but again, I think that's why I'm pushing for the, you know, and I can compromise on any of these things. We can come to a consensus. I'm pushing for, we start remote and then we would have to wait until after Labor Day. We'd have to wait until we really had better numbers from the health department before we could really confidently say, all right, we feel a lot better about this right now. Otherwise, I think Labor Day is too early for what you're trying to mitigate against.
For the 50%. I mean, we could start on the 27th with remote and then go from there.
But why do we need to start late for remote?
Exactly.
Well, I think because we're changing my only concern would be just people having a chance to prepare. Teachers are now, they're going to be teaching fully remote. So you now have a whole different game plan than what they originally thought they were going to have.
We're
But
still
But they've
teaching the
done
same
that
lesson
for
plan,
2 months
just in front of a
after we
camera.
put that out.
it's not just the same lesson plan in front of a camera at all. It's very different than that.
And what will we do?
Well, I think we should probably rely on the staff, on Dr. Meyer and his team's assessment of when they can be ready on those
And
things.
also, I think we have to hear from them what we mean, or we have to share what we mean with them, what we mean with the remote. We have to provide an access to special ed kids. We have to provide an access to ESL kids. And the
Right.
kids that don't
Mhm.
have internet access. So we have to make sure it's not all remote and nobody's in the building.
Isn't
So
that-
we have to
I
make
thought we
sure
had
we
already
are clear
Have
about
we
that.
planned for that though?
No, we
I
don't.
thought part of
Well,
the 50% was to make sure that all vulnerable students and students who did not have remote or did not have internet would be in the schools. I thought we had already planned to
We did
accommodate.
for the 50%, but if you're not 50% and you're all remote, then you are not equitable.
Sure. If you look within the
Yeah, that's
phases,
the
for
whole
phase
thing.
one, which would be the remote, students with disabilities, let's see, students without internet access come at level 2 of phase one. And then in level 3 of phase one is when we would add students with disabilities, students with ELL services, and then those without access to the internet. So level 1 is no students at all in buildings. Level 2 is those students who we cannot get the MiFi to. Level 3 is where we add in our students with disabilities and ELL.
So it gotta be phase one, level 3. That's one option, I think, to go. Or we can do phase 2, level 3. No, there's no level 3 on phase 2. Let's see what I was thinking. Well, if we include pre-K and pre-K to 3rd grade, that involves phase 2. So anything else, it has to be in the phase 1, level 3 to accommodate all those.
All right, so
Yes.
I've sort of lost the conversation here as to where we are.
Mhm.
Mhm.
The consensus on that vote for 14, from my understanding, was starting phase 3, level 2, 50%.
Dr. Meyer.
The next question is,
When
But
to
we
start.
are allowed to
Someone-
change our minds,
Yeah.
right?
Someone
well,
with-
sure, but it's still the consent. I mean, it's
Someone
still,
withdrew their vote.
say again,
Someone has withdrawn their vote.
but it's
I did.
We're only at 6.
right, but it's at 6, but it's still a majority.
We still
It's
have
not
No
four.
consensus for 6. One vote was taken
We still
back,
have
so you don't have a
consensus at 6
consensus anymore.
I don't have a consensus, but I have a majority.
Hold on, I don't have my cheat sheet. I'm pulling out my cheat sheet.
If you have
do,
50,
I have it.
50.
Oh, now it's down to 5.
Yeah.
We were at 66,
Can,
It
can we
was
just keep,
6.
can we, the board, keep talking about this?
and we're now down to 5.
Well,
votes.
and I appreciate that, Mark, but I need to sort of follow you too. And so I'm trying to gain some clarification as to what's going on. One thing that I will say is this too. I've heard a couple of times folks say teachers need more time, so we need to start later. If that's the case, then we need to back up the teacher's calendar as well, because if we just push everything forward, it's the same number of work days for teachers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So if teachers need more time, then they need to start
Mhm.
maybe when we said they were going to have to start
That's right.
to get that extra time in. So,
Mhm.
so think about that as well. And
I
we
think
might
that
have to
would be
use some of
fine.
those unassigned work days where they would have to come in on unassigned, the traditional unassigned work days, which the board does have the ability to do that. So I guess what I'm saying also is when we go through those other calendar questions, well, in fact, we'd probably need to do that sooner than August 3rd, because that's when they start. So,
That's
so
one of
anyway,
the things I'm sitting here thinking, in all the years we've talked about the calendar and how we can't do it within a week or two when we've been out since March 15th and we're not worried about kids coming back. I'm totally blown away by that
I don't understand what you mean.
I don't understand.
because of like some of the higher level classes that students are taking. And we can't afford for them to miss more than a day or two here and there. Do you understand what I'm saying, Carl? I mean, and and we talk about, I don't mean to call you out, I'm sorry, but because you were looking at me. Secondary director of education there. But I mean, all that's going through my head, and I'm thinking, some of the conversations we've had around prior calendars and how we can't miss. And what was the date that school ended, the last day for us?
March 13th.
March 13th. I was thinking 15th. I didn't want to say that wrong. So April, May, June, 4 months. We're going on 5 months. I mean, 4.5 months
half a
that
year.
they've been out. Yeah. I mean, it's,
Well, 2 of the months were they wouldn't have been in school anyway. They were going to be out of school on May 23rd. So they lost 2 months of instruction. You can't count the summer.
that's
or
a
the-
long time when you're talking.
Every.
I know, but I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
not that's not 4 months. They have not
I
lost
think-
a
I
half,
think
you know,
what Jamie's
not
trying
a
to
half a
say
year.
is it's just the length consecutive. I know, we know they get a summer, but it's from where it was the end of school and it consecutively ran with summer.
Right.
And then we're going to delay the
It
beginning.
even more.
So the longer we go, I think the harder it's going to be.
Well, we're delaying. I thought the reason we're delaying is to keep them safe.
Now, the Roanoke City, Salem City, they all start August 31st, and then Roanoke County starts August 24th. So, and then Pulaski starts September 8th. So it's not like no division goes beyond August 13th. So,
do you all need to vote on the start date first before you go to how we start?
I think they're related, Mark. I think that's the problem is that we've got 4 board members who are concerned about sending kids in person on August 13th, and we don't want to do that. But we're not in agreement on how we mitigate against that. And I'm just trying to encourage us to keep talking and do some give and take so that we can come to some consensus. And what I was going to say earlier, and I don't want to speak, of course, for Ms. Bond or Ms. Parton, but I thought they both said that they would be okay doing some virtual at the beginning. So that seems another point where, maybe we can find some common ground and move forward on that.
Yeah, I changed my mind on that.
Well,
So-
what if we started on August 13th and we start remotely. And then we wait until after Labor Day. And assuming that things haven't cranked up, we consider sending them back.
Could I ask one question or just a suggestion? Is if that were to happen, is there any way we could have some students, we had spoken about that before, the younger, elementary, kindergarten, first graders, I just don't know what a kindergartner can do online when they've never met their
Exactly,
teacher. If
Exactly.
that we could maybe allow them to come in and have
That's what
appointments
some school systems have done.
and meet
Yeah.
their teacher and get some type of opportunity to engage. I think some of the older kids can handle it a little bit easier, but when you don't know how to read and you don't know how to write, there's really not much we can send home
You might.
to help them. So if there's some way we could merge
So
that.
that's a good point. So if you go back to page 6 on your booklet,
And the ELL
Okay.
and.
Yeah.
and
if you go
special
back to page
education.
6, and so this might be a possible compromise. If you look at phase 2, is it 6? No, I'm sorry. It is page 9.
Page
if-
nine,
Level 2 phase.
Look at page 9.
page
9.
nine.
Phase 2, level 1.
Mhm.
That's where we start offering
25%.
20. Well, that's where we start offering childcare for one, and that's where pre-K through 3 actually is face-to-face 25% of the time. So that's 2 half days a week, and everyone else is remote.
Okay.
Does that
Mhm.
does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Including ELL and special.
Yeah. So
Yes,
look at
They
They
level.
would be in the
Yeah,
building.
phase 2, level 1, students with disabilities
Yeah,
may be
that's
offered
what
in-person
I-
instruction based on the needs of their IEP. Students who receive L services, students without access to the internet through MCPS provided MiFi devices, students of employees, and 25% of students in grades pre-K through 3 will attend 2 half days per week. All other students will participate in remote instruction, and childcare will be provided if we
What's the
did that.
difference between 1 and 2?
The
25 and then 50.
One is
Okay.
25. but-
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the one that's the one I suggested.
Wait, 1 and 2.
So 1 is 20.
1 is 25 and 2 is
Mhm.
50.
Yeah.
Of the PK3
Of the
students.
pre-K 3.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah,
want to
so the-
include pre-K, that has to be phase 2 anyway, one of
Yes.
the phase 2 levels.
Right.
And if
So
you don't want to include any pre-K 3rd grade, then it has to stick to phase 1,
Yes.
but maybe higher levels like level 3.
So I think that
go
I
ahead,
don't
Brad.
I don't think it's necessary to do the 25% in order to get students with IEPs, ELL services, and all those other things. I mean, we can accomplish that with phase 1, level 3, or phase 1, level 4.
Yeah.
And I think what Annie
Mhm.
was asking about, I think is a great idea. And I've actually thought about this, and I've talked about it with some people, and I didn't want to bring it up right away and confuse things. 'Cause to me, I think that's more of an implementation detail. But I've actually had some parents have made good suggestions about, you know, how we did we kind of did the drive-through graduation for the 5th graders and stuff like that last year, and then of course we had the big one in the cage. But on a per school basis, we kind of did some of those smaller things, and people suggested, well, you know, if we start on time, if we start on the 13th before, you know, the bulk of the students are back, you know, could the young students, could all students even really, if we wanted to do it this way, come in for at least a day or 2 and meet their teachers so that there is a little bit of face-to-face, and, you know, could that meeting even happen, you know, outdoors, you know, on a good weather day or whatever. I am all for that. I think that would be great if we could do something like that, but I don't think that should. I think there's a big difference between that and sending kids 25% of the time.
So if we're talking about safety and is a concern for, it's a concern for all of us. But if there's at least 4 of us, I don't understand how sending some of our most vulnerable students back in, it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me to say we're going to send the youngest kids, our children with disabilities, our English speaking or non-English speaking students, that doesn't make sense to me if we're talking about trying to keep students safe. I pulled back my number 14 as far as starting at 50% because I think we need to start remotely first. I think we do need to give our teachers and our staff time to figure out how we're going to service those younger students, how that's going to happen. And I don't believe bringing them back into the buildings 2.5 days a week is how we do that. Now, we keep wanting to put the increased numbers on the students who may come back. Our numbers are going up already because folks are not practicing wearing masks, not practicing social distancing, and they're going out of the county and they're coming back into the county from vacations and whatever else, and the numbers are going up from that. So it's not just the students that are a factor here, but that is going to have an impact.
Okay, so we still have 4 who want phase 3 level 2, which is a majority of the board.
Well, I kept it because I really don't want us to start planning from scratch. This document is a solid document, and I just, just thinking Dr. Walker going through with 1,000 kids another IEP plan, I don't think it's fair. So for me, use the same plan, but don't start on the 13th. I mean, it's,
No, I can do that. I can go.
But does
Because
Dr. Walker have to?
For me, I'm sorry. I think even though it might be okay, the other plan, I think that's hard on parents when I've got a first grader and second grader. Why do I have to go to school when so-and-so doesn't that's in 4th grade, and then the parents trying to get them to school 2 days and the 4th graders at home trying to, I just think that's hard. Trying to do 2 schedules and then add another one into it. And so for me, I'm going to stick with what I voted to stay as planned, phase 3 level 2, but I am willing to back it up to August 27th. I'm willing to make that compromise and forget the remote, change my mind on the remote learning thing. So and that's where I'm staying. So.
Okay, do we want to take a...
So back to Ms. Karan's point, is there, as far as the new IEPs go and Dr. Walker's 1,000 cases that he has to edit or whatever, I have 2 questions about that. Number one, if we do a phase 1, let's see, a phase 1 level 3 or phase 1 level 4, would he have to change anything?
Yeah.
He has to change that
all
for,
of 'em.
yes,
Yeah,
for
whatever.
any
Every
change
single one.
each time.
And if we go back into as a state, if the governor issues an order or whatever, would he just have to do it at that time then?
Yes.
Every time.
Yes, we did. He did work with our attorneys. Dr. Would you want to speak to that?
We have to change, amend the IEPs to match whatever the phase the students are participating in. So, for example, we're in phase 3 now. We're getting ready to meet. I have a meeting on Thursday with all of the special ed teachers to let them know what to do, to give them guidance what to do, because they're asking questions. Hey, Dr. Walker, what's going to look like? New Year's coming up. We've got an alternative schedule. How do we amend the IEPs? What language do we use? So based on the outcome of today, I give them that information on Thursday. If we start, whatever the outcome is, if we start later, I tell them that, and then we discuss how we're going to do the language. If it's remote, the language got to be in there remotely and how we do it. So whatever we come out today is whatever, that's what I got to tell them of what language to put in the IEP and what we do.
Oh, so they're going to have to do it no matter what.
We got to do it no matter what. It just that we
Okay,
just
so
have to know the answer.
Okay, so you have to do these new IEP plans, whether we choose remote today or we choose 50% today, you would have to do them anyway.
And then if it changes again, I've got to.
So if we start remote,
Yeah.
then when we change to 50%. But if we start 50%, we're eventually going to change again anyway. I mean, we're not going to stay 50% the rest of the year, so you are going to have to do them
Right.
Well,
no matter what.
Yeah, whatever, we'll have to amend the IP to match whatever,
Whatever, right.
where we are, the service, what phase we're in, the service has got to match. Until we get to full implementation, that's what we got to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So I must have misunderstood because I thought maybe you are ready with the IEPs for this phase 3, level 2 right now.
They
Or
haven't
you are
been
close to be ready.
No, in the beginning, when I did my presentation, I stated that we had the anticipated numbers based on the survey or the questionnaire that we sent out to parents, and parents let us know what they thought. And so those were the anticipated numbers, and we're getting ready to schedule IP meetings to hold with parents. Although we have the parents' verbal, what they want to do, we've got to hold the meetings. And so once we get in those meetings, things could change when we're looking at students and services. So those numbers were anticipated numbers. So whatever the outcome is this morning,
This morning now.
we have to use that information. If we get into September, numbers spike up really heavily, and then then the board says, okay, we've got to make the change again. Then I have to approach the teams, all the teachers, to say, hey, we've got to amend to make everything match. And so,
So if we started at 50% now, you would be doing all your IPs for 50%. And then if there's a spike and we have to go to remote, then you'd have to change them all to remote.
Right.
And then when we go back to 50% again, you'd have to change them all. So if we start remote, then you do them now for remote. And then as we gradually move up, so you actually would probably change them less if we started remote than if we go back and go forward again.
Don't we have to vote on that?
Okay, why don't we start with voting on,
Back to remote or not?
why don't we start with voting on number 15 on the date? And I just want to make one clarification I've heard mentioned twice. Our numbers in Montgomery County are not going up. In fact, for the whole month of July, they haven't been above 5. So our numbers in Montgomery County for positive cases are not going up.
I know more than 5 people who have COVID. So, and they all live in Montgomery County. So I don't know where those numbers come from. And several of them live in my development. They came back, 12 boys came back from Myrtle Beach with COVID.
Was that back in June?
It was.
No, this was a month ago.
Back in June.
Back in
Back
June.
in June.
I said for the month of July,
Yes,
we have not had any cases above 5,
right.
any days above 5
Right.
in the month of July. And today is what?
21st.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I know it's tit for tat, but I want the public to not get wrong information.
And we're still 3 weeks away from if we did keep on track with 13, the August 13th date, that's 3 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so on number 15, we have currently 3 votes on the date.
Well, I don't think you can pick, you can't pick the date without knowing what the plan is.
I think,
I can't.
I agree.
No, thank you. The sky spoke, but I think that I could say September 8th, but I don't know, are we doing remote? Are we doing 50%? I need to know first what we're doing before I can say what date we should
We've already had a
So
start to
sis,
school.
did I
Well-
vote, did
Well,
our
Well, we have a
votes change?
consensus. Well, I mean, if that's the
Already
case, we do have a majority who wanted to phase 3 level 2.
Right,
So if we do that
Okay.
first, like we have said, then the next question is,
that's right.
The
when do we
date.
start
Pick the
phase
date.
3 level 2?
So if we have one person that changes
So we're
their
not
mind
starting remote
on
then.
14.
No.
According to the vote right now on number 14,
Everybody
no.
voted for that? Did we have?
So, Boone, you're okay with
I
that? We're
would-
not
We
gonna
have a
start-
majority.
We're just gonna start 50%.
I changed my vote I withdrew my vote from that because I don't want to start at 50%. I think we need to start at remote. But evidently there's still 4 board members.
I took my vote away too. I
So now
haven't
it's
voted.
not.
But we have to,
But-
again,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
I
having
just felt
trouble.
like it's
I'm
not
having trouble
clear
hearing what
what we're
Mrs.
voting
Franklin
for.
said. Sorry.
Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just point of clarification. I couldn't hear. I couldn't understand what Ms. Franklin said. So, Ms. Franklin, can you repeat that again? Maybe closer to the
I
mic.
said I pulled back my vote for starting at 50%, phase 3 to level 2, because I don't believe we need to start. I need, in school, we should start remotely, and that's not an option in 14.
so that's
Well,
what,
actually,
That's option 2.
option 2 would be, it would be,
It is.
it would be picking another phase that would allow us to start remote. So that's what option 2 would be,
Mhm.
I think.
Option 14.
Yeah,
or
question
Question 14.
Yeah,
Yeah.
option 2 would be picking a different phase, which would then be.
So we,
starting
so
remote.
we had, just to show you how it's changed.
Mhm.
We, at the beginning, we had 4 votes for phase 3 level 2 and 3 votes for choose something different. Now we still have 4 votes for phase 3 level 2, but no votes for option 4 do something different.
So we need to go to the next.
yeah, we need to vote
I
for
mean,
the starting date
So then we
now.
pick the date.
Yes.
I didn't want little kids to wear face masks either, but that passed. So,
I mean, according to this, we have a majority who want the phase
Exactly.
3 level
Okay,
2.
so what we were told in the very beginning with this tool that we're using tonight is that we could change our vote.
You can.
Yeah,
You did.
And-
But
absolutely.
nobody has changed their
Yeah.
vote for
Could
phase.
we just do this
Yeah.
by
Level
vote?
2.
Could we please vote
Vote.
by person instead
Yes.
of doing this? Let's,
Well-
because I would like to see what everybody's voting. And
I-
there's
great.
no reason it should be secret.
I have no
We're not
problem
trying
with
to
the
make
plan.
it secret.
exactly.
So I just want to understand. Well, it is secret to me. I don't know who voted. I don't know who voted for
We
what.
just all spoke.
Yeah.
I completely said what I voted for.
Me
I-
too.
I've been saying I don't have a problem with the plan. I have a problem with the start date,
Yes.
Okay, so you're
So-
okay with starting 50%?
Yeah. but not on 13. So that's what I'm standing.
And I said I was willing
So-
to compromise the 2 weeks, but I was keeping my stay as planned phase 3 level 2. And I said that twice.
So I can't see who, but I'm
Yeah.
hearing
I said
phase
that
3
at the
level
beginning.
2 was chosen by Ms. Parton, Bond,
Ms. Bond, Ms.
Ms.
Karan.
Karan, and
and
Ms.
Ms.
Graham,
Graham,
correct?
yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's 4 who have chosen.
But
phase 3
Ms.
level 2.
Karan, but Ms. Karan's vote came with a pretty big caveat. So put a star by that one.
No, she said that she was fine with that phase. Her
Yeah.
concern was the start date, which is question number 15.
Correct. Yes, but we're talking about the same thing. I don't.
No, that.
No,
means
we're
there is
not.
Consensus for starting at 50%. Now, that means we choose a date.
Yeah.
So now we're starting at 50%. There is no beginning remote learning anymore.
There's
We're just
consensus.
going to start at 50%, and we're going to do it on September 8th or August 27th before we have any idea what effect that all the students coming into our area will have on our school system. We will now have 50% of our students in the schools, and we are willing to take that risk. So that's what I'm understanding. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
I'm not sure you can, that's your wording. I don't think
Well,
that's how the rest of us
clear
do
that
it.
we're going to put 50%, we're going to put the kids into the schools either on August 27th or September 8th, correct?
Yes, that is decision point 15
Right.
is where we are now, is those choices.
Or August 13th for that matter.
Yes. Option 1 is August 13th.
And so remote learning is off the table.
Well, in order to keep the remote learning on the table, we have to change, the votes from option 14, option 1 to option 2. But when we keep saying remote, that's not helping because we cannot go all remote and don't have anybody in the building.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, can we say-
equity-
then can we say
equity
remote?
reason we have to have some kids in the building.
No, we don't.
Well,
have
that's
to
why
have
we could
some
go to
kids
phase
involved.
2, level 1, which is what Dr. Meyer was talking about before.
I was just
There's a
trying to help and give us.
Right.
But that
Care- careful, I
that
think
was kinder-
we can-
PK through third grade,
Right.
and I have a problem with that. I have a problem with sending PK through third grade and And
You don't have a problem with sending everybody to school. For
that's right,
50%.
because you're exactly
So-
right. Because the parents that have two age levels of kids, I think that's going to make it very difficult.
I agree.
That's just common sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's why I'm saying phase 3, level 2 was a good plan. But it's just the timing, for me was too early. Whether we can get the custodians right, substitute teachers right, bus drivers right, and all the other things that needs to be worked. And in the meantime, checking the numbers. If nothing changes, the plan is in good
Okay.
shape to work anyway.
So we're on number 15. 3 people have voted. We need the other remaining 4 to vote, please, on what date you would
No.
like to start.
Can we just please not do it on the slides? Can we just please just vote? I just think it's so much
Sure.
easier.
Sure.
And let's all go on here and
I think I
I mean,
said that about
just
2
vote.
hours ago.
Just vote.
That's
What do
what
you
we've been
wanna
doing.
do?
Do we
The
have a
whole
motion on the table?
14 questions. We've been just voting.
Okay, I motion that we start on September 8th.
Well,
We don't
We'll
need
do
a
a
motion for that.
consensus.
We are
No.
just,
Taking consensus.
Okay, well, somebody said do a
I
motion,
did.
so I
She's
did.
a- She's
That's-
asking for she's asking for an official vote. An official vote means we need a motion. And we
oh,
need
I'm
a
sorry. I
second.
No, I'm
didn't
not asking
even
for a
know.
vote. I'm just asking for people to just say, what is it you want to do? Is this an official
I
vote?
think I
Sure.
said that about 10 hours ago.
Just go ahead and tell everybody.
Yeah, just tell people what you want.
Yeah.
I
I
want
mean,
September 8th, okay?
From
That's what I
from
want.
the beginning, I said what I
What is
thought
it?
it is, September 8th. I mean,
Okay,
that's
yay.
what I did.
So we have 2 September
What do
8th.
you want,
Hey.
Penny?
Well, I want it to start remote, but if we're not, we're going
You
to do
can't
it
have that,
September
so.
8th.
September 8th.
Okay, that's 3 September 8th.
August
Mark?
13th?
Do what?
I'm fine with August 13th or the 27th.
I'm going to go with the 27th.
I'm going to say the 27th.
I'm willing to compromise.
Mark?
I mean, I don't like any of the options. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, but again, I am trying to stick to the science on this. And if we're concerned about the influx of another 30,000 people in our county, then I don't think it's prudent to go back in person before like September 14th, probably.
I
you were
agree.
trying
I
to-
agree with that. We should push it out even further, yeah.
If you were
Yeah, I
trying
don't
to
think there's
stick to
anything
the
magical
science-
about the 8th.
If you were trying to stick to the science, you would have been more respectful of Dr. Bazel's knowledge.
I'm a little offended by that remark. I think I have been incredibly
Okay.
respectful
He's
to
not a
all of our
scientist.
speakers, and
And you know what? She's not
Um,
a teacher, and she told me how to teach. So maybe she shouldn't have been rude. I mean, come on.
I don't-
Marty.
I don't think
that. She
want to
does
make
not-
this.
People heard that, and you said to me, "You're being disrespectful." to
And you
Dr.
were,
Giselle."
Miss.
Oh no!
Cass.
Almost every single person said, "What is that woman talking about?"
No, you were
Because
being
no.
very disrespectful
No,
to
I
her.
wasn't. I questioned
Let's
her,
stick
and
to-
there is
No.
nothing wrong with
Guys,
questioning
let's
her.
stick to, ladies and gentlemen, let's stick what we have in hand so we can accomplish the
Unbelievable.
rest of the agenda.
So I agree. I respect Dr. Bissell. I think that some of what she was saying was more judgment or opinion, and she even admitted to us the areas where she couldn't really give us answers. And I think that when she was asked directly about some of those things, I think they lined up more with what the the general consensus is out there, which I think is a good thing. I mean, I don't think she was telling us something that wasn't necessarily true. But I think that, she said 4 to 6 weeks on the issue with the students. And that is the issue that is concerning, I think, the 4 members of the board who are nervous about starting on the 13th. So I think, this is some of the back and forth on this is, if we're not going to do any remote, then I'm not going to vote for either of these 3 options on number 15. If we're going to do remote and give ourselves a chance to get started and then see where things are going, I could certainly support, an extra week, maybe up to 2 weeks for staff to get things in order, because that seems to be something that Ms. Karan is worried about. I'm willing to compromise, but I can't vote for starting 50% in person, before probably the middle of September.
September 8th would be another 7 weeks. Is
Yeah.
that correct? That's
September
7 more
8th.
weeks.
The Labor Day is also a lot of emails that I receive, both teachers and parents. That was a suggested date too, so it's not like I came up with Labor Day.
Right.
Um,
I certainly know the
myself,
number of emails I received were very small compared to the number of families we have and teachers we have. It was teeny tiny.
Absolutely.
And I based my decisions off of what the surveys were, both the MCEA and the ones that we conducted previously as to the teachers wanting to go back.
Yeah, the difference between then and now, probably we have 150 more cases in the area.
We
That's
don't
the
have
part that
150
worries me.
more cases in the area. Not in this area, we do not.
We do, because the numbers we had when we sent the surveys in April wasn't 220.
Okay, but you have to look at the 7-day trend to really understand what those numbers mean.
I mean, I agree on that, but the numbers are increasing. That's for
They
sure.
are not increasing.
But I think more people were nervous about the virus itself in April than they are now.
That is also true.
Okay, so.
I don't know that is true, because we're hearing more from I've heard from teachers who have basically said, I want to withdraw my survey. Now I'm getting scared. Teacher, we heard from a teacher this week that quit because, or a staff member working in the schools that quit because of the concern is definitely rising. Whether you think it is warranted or not, there is a human element to all of this. It's also going to affect our operations and logistics.
I am willing to change my vote to September 8th, but I'm not happy about it, but I need our kids in school. I'm willing to compromise to September 8th. I think it won't do any good. I think it'll put us in the same spot we would have been in August 13th. But I'm willing to do that so that we can end this evening and get our kids back into school.
I'm willing to do the same thing. And if it's a problem with being prepared, maybe we can find out some way for teachers to have teacher work days before that, where they're the only ones in the buildings and they can start preparing without students, just like they do every year, and have so many days that they can prepare for what they need to do.
I don't think it's about prepare. I think the reason I said preparing is when we changed to remote. I don't think teachers need extra preparing time. The whole idea was we start remote, move into 50-50. And if we were going to do that, maybe we might want to consider giving some extra time.
And that may be fine, but there's a whole lot of teachers that aren't comfortable with remote teaching as well. So, speaking for half, you have to speak for the whole, not just the group that you may be hearing from.
I'm not speaking for just the group I'm hearing from. Never mind, Jamie. It is not even worth arguing with you. You're right.
So all right, hold on. Let me interject here. So Jamie and Marty, so you're saying that you're willing to compromise on this, but your priority is to basically start as soon as possible. And so I keep coming back, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but I'm just trying to get some consensus and try to get some compromise on this that maybe works for everybody and works for our community. So if that's the case, why not, can we compromise by actually starting earlier, possibly even on time or close to on time, remotely, and then, switching on the 8th to, I mean, from a family point of view, I don't think that's I don't know that that's going to really make, I don't think it's going to hurt people to start remotely earlier. I think that just gets their kids in school doing something sooner,
Okay,
right?
let's define.
Okay, so I'm hearing Mr. Tabaka say, start on the 13th remote,
Okay.
What I said.
and then go to the 50% model on September 8th, like you call it.
Wait, that's where we started back an
That's what
hour
I started
ago.
with.
But I would have been fine with that, but we have to define which remote we want. It's not nobody's in school kind of remote. I thought there's a
All right,
problem
let's
with
do that then.
equity issue. I mean,
Okay,
if we say
so
that nobody, because then
do you want to, the question is, all right, so do you want to go back to, let's see, page 9?
phase one, level three?
Actually, let's go to
Phase
page
2,
8.
level 1.
Or eight.
Yeah, I would not recommend going past, we would have to start off at least at phase 1, level 2. That is everyone remote. And only kids that come in are the few kids who don't have internet access. So we can actually do remote. We can't do remote in phase 1, level 1. That is what we did at the end of the year.
I was saying phase one, level 3. So spec ed kids can come too.
What kids?
Spec ed kids
We can go back.
and ESL kids and special education kids, and then the internet no access kids.
Okay. Let me ask this. It seems like what I've heard is on September 8th, we're going to phase 3,
Level 2.
level
two.
2.
Right.
That's been settled
Maybe,
on that date.
unless things change before then.
And now what I,
Yeah, let's be careful about what settle means.
Yeah.
that is
the
what you all have
decision
voted
with-
on tonight.
With the knowledge
correct?
we have at this point.
So now what Mr. Trabaka is saying, okay, let's look at maybe starting on August 13th, remote for those 3 weeks to get used to that remote model, which, I don't think is a bad idea to, because I think it will help teachers to start with remote, get used to that system for 3 weeks in case we ever do have to back up into it.
And that's where we were, but then Annie said, well, but that's not good for kindergartners.
Okay,
and
so
All right. So, right. So here's what I
Okay,
would say.
so-
Here's what we would
And I
do.
agree with that.
Yeah. Here's what we would do. What we could do with phase 1, level 2 with the young kids, we can either scale it up to a phase 2, level 1, where 25% of the pre-K 3 kids come in, which means they would come in 2 half days for 3 weeks to get oriented for whatever.
I don't
Okay.
like that idea.
Or they could do the phase 1, level 2 is everybody is remote. And that's everyone. And so then we'll be working with these young kids online.
Mhm.
Another step, I think we could go to the 50%. We could start pre-K through 3 on page 9 at phase 2, level 2, which is the pre-K 3. Basically, they're starting on August 13th, like everyone else will be starting on September 8th.
But then the problem with that is just what I said. That's hard for parents when you've
Yeah.
got a second grader and a fourth grader. And,
Mhm.
you're-
Okay. Then,
I think
all
the
right.
problem
So,
with that.
all right. So then I got a solution, possibly. Okay. We could do something in between us. Phase 3, level 1 is actually 50% of pre-K through 5. I mean,
Wait,
so the question is, we're talking about what are we going to do for 3 weeks? What's that remote going to look like for the first 3 weeks?
and,
I
and
didn't
it's
think
the
we
most
were doing remote. I thought we had,
and it's the most concerning for pre-K through 3.
Right. So Jamie, what's been decided is at least by September 8th, everyone is in phase
Phase
3,
three.
level 2, the
Right.
50% model. What Mr. Chabaka is saying is, well, why don't we look at starting August 13th with remote learning for 3 weeks to keep the same schedule. And so the first 3 weeks, maybe what we're doing with young kids, teachers could maybe bring them in small groups or individuals to just meet them, orient them,
Teach them how to use their Chromebook.
teach them how to use a Chromebook, teach them how to, with the expectations of the school, with mask and, mitigation
Mhm.
techniques. And we could arrange some schedule
Orientation type
for
of
that
thing.
first 3 weeks where the young kids are just, they're coming in on some rotation
Mhm.
of some type, just to,
Then in order not to tie when we decide to go to 50% to the date of September 8th, then if we all agree to go remote with what you're suggesting, we can change our option 1, stay as planned, to option 2, and then we'll pick the date as August 13th.
I think
So
we have
you guys will decide with the numbers then, maybe then you can go to 50% on August 27, or maybe September 14th. Then we don't have to attach the September 8th to change that. You know what I'm saying?
I think we have to pick a
You
date.
know,
I think too, and I think you
No, I
need to
think we have to
parents
pick
have
a
to plan
date.
For something.
Yeah.
They've got to have work day
And-
releases and, I mean, they've
and
got to have some kind of.
Can I
idea.
mention 3 groups that we're still not equitable on here? And that's special ed, ELL, and the kids with no internet access. In this,
I-
in,
No, I thought
in this,
phase
hold
2,
on,
level 1 brought all them
in this
back.
phase 1, level 3, we
I
are
thought we-
still not meeting any of their needs.
I thought we were looking at phase 2, level 1. Because I thought that's what Dr. Meyer
So,
was talking
so,
about.
so
And
when
bring
I've said, I think it's important to maybe start defining what we mean when we're talking about remote or 100% remote model.
what
Whether
I've
it's
been
not
trying to
really
say.
100%. It's fine. I mean, yeah, and I apologize. I mean, there's a lot to process here, and I think it's okay if we get around in circles to get to where we are. Sometimes you have to do that, I think, with public policy and things like this. So, but I think going to a phase 1, level 2, phase 1, level 3, or phase 1, level 4, I think we need to be somewhere in there. And I think when I say remote or 100% remote, I don't really mean 100%. I mean 100% as far as, most kids, but as far as the kids without the internet access and the students with disabilities, I'm open to staff recommendations on that. And certainly level 2 or level 3 there.
Right. So you're not, you're not saying phase 1, level 1 where nobody comes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I think that's kind of useless in some ways.
And so,
So we're still back to then maybe phase 1, level 3, where we have students with disabilities in person. We have ELL students in person. We have students without internet access in person. And
teachers can bring their kids.
and for pre-K through 3, we have, wait, can I finish?
yes, nobody.
That's
Really?
on the-
For
that's-
pre-K through 3, we have them come in small groups to start learning about their teacher and do some small learning, like how to get on the Chromebook and some simple things in smaller groups.
Ms. Graham, can we call that orientation just to get our terminology straight? Which is different than they're going to be coming to school 25% of the time or something. It's going to be an orientation. It might be 1 or 2
orientation,
days.
perfect word.
Yeah.
So what would happen is okay, Dr. Wickham, you can help me out with this. They would come in for orientation. The teachers would set up some type of orientation. Maybe by the second week, these students would be doing some activities online, because part of the orientation with the kid and the parent will be how to use Google Meet, the Google Classroom, and that type of thing. And so they would be actually doing some things in those first 3 weeks. It wouldn't just be coming for an orientation. The orientation would involve teaching them how to use some of that technology, which is really important in case we ever do have to back up from the September, where we're starting on September 8th, 50% model. So do you have anything to add to that, Dr. Wickham?
Do you think second, third graders need that though? My third grade granddaughter can get
Maybe
on Google better than I can.
So here's what,
okay? I mean,
right. So here's what can happen, Jamie, is it could be a need-based situation. So if we have third graders who already know, a lot of third graders, correct, already know the Google
Absolutely.
Classroom
Yeah.
platform.
Absolutely.
We don't need to bring them in. It would be a teacher,
Like a new student,
yeah.
a new third grade
It would be a
student coming to our
teacher,
area.
right, having to figure out, who knows these platforms, and that would be a teacher having a conversation with families, and if a family doesn't need to come in to understand the platform, then they can go ahead and start doing, the actual instruction.
Our
So-
second grade students did not get exposed to Google Classroom in every single teacher's classroom, but they did in some. So second grade going into third grade would be in much better shape. Kindergarten, obviously, they've never had school and never accessed a Chromebook before, and that would be our biggest struggle, would be our kindergarten children. And first grade as well, last year there was no expectation that they interacted with Google Classroom, so kindergarten and first grade would be the struggle.
Okay. And so what would happen is then too, there may be some different levels of when those teachers would use synchronous learning at the elementary school for those first 3 weeks. You know, does that make sense? We'd have to discuss that.
Mhm.
Is that is that a correct statement there, Dr. Wickham? Okay. So we would have a question is when they would have that synchronous learning that first 3 weeks.
Right.
Okay. You know, so we would have to figure out what does that look like, but our folks can figure that out between the teachers and the principals. Everybody can figure that out, you know,
Okay.
as to how that looks the first 3 weeks for elementary school. But in the meantime, our
Okay.
middle and high schools can start moving. What's good about it is it allows the teachers to start completely remote and get used to that model prior to having a group of kids in front of them and a group of kids online. And so I think that could help the secondary teachers move into this new remote model by having that 3 weeks of transition. And so, so what I would recommend is what Ms. Graham talked about, phase 1, level 3.
3.
Okay,
With the addition of the pre-K through 3 orientation.
correct. With the orientation in there,
Right, Bruce?
and then the 50% model comes in September 8th. That's when the child care would start. That might help Dr. Graham get some better numbers on that. And so, so from what I'm hearing, we've concluded phase 2. We'll start September 8th. The next question is this, and we don't have to put this on the system. I would like for you all to vote on
Yeah.
this. Would you all like to start remote August 13th with the orientation with under phase 1, level 3 for those 3 weeks?
No.
Okay, that's a no. Do I have another?
I'm sorry, could you state it again?
Yes. So we've already decided by consensus that on September 8th, all students pre-K through 12 will be in phase 3, level 2. Thank you. What I'm asking now is, do we start school in a remote setting on August 13th in phase 1, level 3? And I've heard Ms. Franklin say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we said after we went through an hour or two was the consensus was we would start at 50% phase 3, level 2, and it would start on September the 8th. That is what we said. And now we're going through something.
No, we did not get a
Totally different.
consensus on, wait,
Yes, we did.
excuse me, 1 second,
Yes, we did.
please.
We
No,
took that
Yeah, we-
vote.
no, ma'am.
And you changed yours and you changed yours
No.
I didn't
the
change
8th.
mine.
Listen,
Yeah, you said
hold
8th
on.
to the 8th. You
Hold
changed
on.
it. And then 4 people had agreed that it would start at level 3, phase 2, level 3, whatever. That was decided. And now we're having another conversation. What was the whole point of doing the consensus thing if we're just going to keep going round and round and then have something else thrown out there if we came to consensus?
And we did. That is correct.
Yeah, we came to a
We came to
and then
consensus September
Mr.
8th.
Zabaka said,
Phase
"Why can't
2,
we reconsider
and Mr.
this?"
Javaka made the recommendation and asked if the board, Mr. Javaka, if you'd like to re-ask that, asked if basically what I heard Mr. Javaka say is asked the board if you all would consider moving a remote model at the beginning to start those first 3 weeks.
And then the
Because
board stopped
because
having
Mr.
discussion
Shabaka, I don't
and you
wanna-
start making recommendations.
Excuse
wanna-
me, ma'am?
I said, and then the board stopped having discussion and you start making recommendations as to what Mr. Chewbacca was asking.
Correct. I did start making recommendations based on the levels that we've provided because I need to know
Which,
that-
again, the board was supposed to be making this decision. We made one. And if Mr. Chewbacca's suggestion did not fall the way he needed it to fall or wanted it to fall with the board, then we're right where we were at with that consensus. Starting phase 3, level 2, on September the 8th.
I don't think Mr. Chabaka agreed to that option. I don't think he
Well, we
voted
had
for it.
consensus.
Right.
Isn't that what
I
we've
know.
been saying
I mean,
all night
I'm
long?
just, yes, I agree on that. We've been saying, I've been saying actually from the beginning that phase 3 level 2 and September 8th, but I don't know if everybody complete their voting because I don't think Mr. Chabaka voted for neither of those, but
I'm not gonna vote for any of the options
Yeah.
on
Yeah, that's
on number
right.
15.
Which
So
is-
I'm a none on that one.
Because I didn't vote for either of the ones on 14 as far as what phase.
So
But
based on what
there
Spring
was
is saying,
consensus, and that's what we've been going on.
right,
all-
exactly. So I don't hear, we don't have a consensus to consider the remote prior to September 8th. That's fine.
Yeah.
I thought I heard enough folks talking about that. That's, so is that what we're hearing,
I'm fine with going back to 8.
ma'am?
I'm fine with what we voted on. going
Okay.
back 50% the 8.
So I'm hearing you're fine.
I'm fine. I mean, that's what I've been saying. from the
Okay.
beginning.
So my question for the board then is, we have concerns about these, part of the reason that we pushed it back to September 8th is we have concerns about a surge or spike in our cases in this county when these 30,000 or so students come back. And so the question then, the logical question I think after that is, are we going to meet sometime close to that date to determine if we feel okay with the health department's numbers at that time to actually move forward with our September 8th plan?
I was going to say we would listen to a health department recommendation on that, but since some people don't feel comfortable listening to them, I'm not sure how you want to
Not
handle
the
that.
truth.
Nobody
I have
said you don't
communicated with
feel
that task
comfortable.
force several times and gotten great information from them. And I was asking them just to share that with the community as a whole so that everybody could understand that. So really, I don't think
Get it.
anyone here does not appreciate the work that they're
I
doing.
didn't say
And
appreciate.
if we disagree with how some things are happening, then there are people all over this county who probably will do that too. But that may not be the truth. But to sit here and say, we don't believe or we don't trust or whatever what they were saying, that's just wrong.
So I guess the question still stands. I think, for those of you who voted for September 8th, are you, and presumably because of concerns about what the cases are going to look like. So if that is your reasoning, do we want as a board, and I'm happy to, just because the board didn't agree with me, it's fine. We still support what the board's doing and try to move forward in a positive way. Do we want to reassess where we are at that point?
I just
or
want
close
to
to that point?
clarify, even though I voted for September 8th, I did that as a compromise. I didn't do it because I was concerned.
Same.
Right. I did the 8th because I was being nice and wanted to give more time for people who felt like they needed it, which I totally understand. I have no problem with that.
That's right.
But
Okay.
it was not to be questioned that we wouldn't be starting on the 8th because the whole 8th was, we're going to go.
That's right.
Right.
Can I say something? Because you guys have been going back and forth, and for once I haven't said much. I agree with Mark in that I'm not going to vote for a date because I don't feel comfortable with the 8th. And what I really don't feel comfortable with is when somebody's, you were nice, and so you were nice, and so you voted for the 8th. I thought the whole idea is we're doing this for our students and for our teachers and for the safety of our community. And to say that we're making a decision just to be nice, I mean, if I was listening out there, I'd feel like, wow, those people don't really care so much about me.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
And so I think that I think we need to the thing is, I feel very strongly about the safety of the community, and that's why
As do I.
that's why I brought it up. And so I don't want anybody to change their mind because they think it's the nice thing to do.
Sue, we all want safety for everybody. So
Okay.
don't say that we
Well,
don't care about
Then
anybody's safety.
say that, the 8th, but don't say that I picked the 8th because I'm being nice.
We were trying to
We were
compromise.
trying to compromise because the health board is telling us we can go on the 13th,
That's
and
right.
there's not a problem with it.
And the matter of
Well, I
fact,
wouldn't say that that's exactly.
the matter of fact is nobody has a magic ball, and we
Nobody
really
knows.
don't know
Right.
what's
No
going to
one knows
happen
what's
by
going to happen.
September 8th. So, we have to move forward and plan like we're opening. And then if health department says you can't open or governor shuts it down, we have to go back anyway. So I think there's no purpose of dwelling on that. I think the
Okay, so
question
if
is
we're not
we're ready
gonna,
to open
so,
on the 13th or not. So seems like we're not, four of us not, so we have to
I
move
think we
on.
need to vote and move on.
Yeah.
We've done hashed this over for 2 hours and we need to take a vote, period.
Can we
We've
do
already had
a
a I can't even talk, it's so late.
consistency? Can we do a roll
Consensus.
call?
So, yes, let's do a roll call, let's do a vote.
Is
I
it
make a
the
motion.
time to now vote for the plan? We are at that point?
We passed that point.
Yeah, to vote for the entire plan, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and let me say this too, let me give you a heads up. Based on teacher work days, this would make teachers, we want to say this now, this would make teachers' first day August 31st for that five work days, okay? So, put it out there, let you know.
All right. Then may I have a motion to approve the reopening plan in concept adjusted with the decision points made by the board today? We recognize that there may be some variances on the plan as the situation around COVID-19 changes.
Do we need to
Motion.
say,
Say it
so
again? You want to hear?
a motion?
Are you ready? You want me to read it, reread it again?
No. I was
You're good.
waiting. I didn't
Okay.
know what the
Motion,
pause
yes.
was for.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
So I motion that we apply the plan as
Phase 3 level
As
2.
we decided.
decided
All
today
the-
with
all
all
the-
these questions
Yeah,
that we've
all
already
the
answered.
decision points up to number 15,
Correct.
except the calendar ones, we agreed upon,
Yes.
or we have consensus upon.
So second, we need a
So,
second.
If we are starting school phase 3 level 2 on September 8th, that's
That's
the
correct.
motion.
Yeah.
So-
Well,
but
along,
the
no,
whole-
this is the whole plan motion.
All the things that we made a decision all through today, 1 through 15, that's
Oh,
also part of the
gotcha.
plan,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, second.
Thank you.
Any discussions anymore?
Yeah,
yeah, I want to, I'm sorry, am I cutting somebody off?
yes. So all through the night, all through the day, all through the night, and the next morning, we have been doing this consensus thing. We should have been voting on each one of those things and not doing this consensus. And now here we are at almost 1:15 in the morning. And from 1 o'clock this afternoon, I'm supposed to remember because I don't have anything in front of me to show what we did. Now I need you to vote on all of that stuff that you came to consensus on.
We voted for it already.
We didn't vote for it. We came to consensus. There's a difference. We didn't
We
vote.
have a recorded vote for every person.
Those are not votes. That's a
You
consensus.
told me those
That's
were
what
not-
we've
you
been
said they
doing
weren't
all
votes.
day. Once we come to consensus, I've got 7 votes. We've come to consensus. That's not a vote. We've got 7 people. We didn't vote. We gave our opinion to come to a consensus. A consensus is not a vote. And I very early on said, where can I look to see what we're doing here? And I was told at the end of this, then all that will be posted. And like, I wanted to see something to see what we were doing as we were going along so I could track what was going on. And there was no way to do this. I stated in the very beginning and before we sat at this table, the process that we were using was not discussed before this board. so that we could have an understanding of exactly how this was going to work. And now here we get to this point, and it's like, oh, let's vote on all this.
And I, in the beginning of the meeting, I said for each individual decision point, we have to have an agreement to move forward. And after we move forward for 23 of them, which we only did the 15, then we're going to vote for the plan, because the decision points are part of the plan, and they did not need necessarily voting, but we had to agree to move on the next decision point. So I think for most of them, we agreed on, and we all push button to show what we want at that time, whatever you want to
And
call
we
that.
could have very easily voted, just like we were pushing the button, and that would have been taken care of as
For
we
each-
were going on through the
Ms.
night.
Franklin,
understand,
if
but
you
for
don't
each-
feel comfortable voting for the plan,
I'm not.
then don't vote
I'm
for
not.
it. Okay.
I'm not. But I'm just saying the way this was handled, I have questioned from the very beginning.
Yes, we have heard that.
I hope so, because if
Yeah.
not, I haven't spoken loud enough.
We've heard it several times.
I think it
And-
was
and
just
it's
for
been
the
noted.
Nothing.
just for the practical purposes. We didn't say for each one motion and a second and a discussion. So to make that things a little faster, but obviously it didn't go very fast.
But that's what we did. We discussed it. We
And we
did.
discussed it and we voted. The only thing we
and
didn't
should have
do
just gone
is,
ahead and voted on it.
may I make a
and
motion and
done.
second? You know, that's the part we didn't do for
I
each
think
of
we're
them.
ready for a roll call.
It's just ridiculous.
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
I hear what Ms. Franklin is saying, and Ms. Franklin, I agree with you on this. And you know, I don't know that there was any ill will meant in any of this. I think you know, people maybe are trying to move a long meeting along as best as they can, and I appreciate everybody's work. So I think one of the most important things to me has been this whole how do we start, how do we phase in, and I just wanted to say that that's a very important thing to me. And sometimes, you know, for people watching out there, maybe who don't normally watch these meetings, I mean, sometimes a board member will throw a protest vote, you know, or will say, well, I'm going to vote no on this. And I think that, you know, in retrospect, it would have been good to have these things point by point, because I am not voting for what we have agreed on, but I respect what the board has done and all of the consensus and work that's gone into all the other decisions. And I think that if all of us voted no, because there was something that we felt passionately about in this list, then we'd probably never get anywhere, and we have to go back and waste a bunch of time doing individual votes or something. I don't know. So I'm going to vote yes on the plan, because it's what we all, you know, I think we all had our chance to have the input and everything. But I just want to be really clear that, you know, on these last two points that we discussed, I'm vehemently opposed to the direction that we've picked. Thanks.
I'm not going to vote because I do not feel comfortable voting for what we're voting for. And for the same reasons that Mark just said, I don't think I don't like how we did this tonight. I think if we're going to have honest, open discussion, we need to have that and not hide behind an app and put in a vote. And maybe it might turn into argument, but I think it's better than, because this didn't seem to really work either. But I'm confused, to be honest, as to where we've ended up, and I just don't feel like saying yes to something I don't really understand. So I'm going to abstain, or I'm going to say no.
Ms. Drake, do you want a roll call, please?
Ms. Bond,
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
I'm voting no because I don't agree with reopening on the 8th at 50%. I think it should be remote. That's why I'm voting no.
Ms. Graham,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Karan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
You didn't ask me.
Oh, the roll call. You came in just a little bit late and I didn't pop you in there. Give me just one moment. I apologize.
All right, moving on.
Wait 1 second. She's got to adjust something.
Oh.
Miss Cass wasn't here when we first
Oh,
started, so she's
okay,
got to add
that's
her.
right.
And then
That's right.
I have to do a roll call and board docs when the meeting starts.
Oh, and I
And
wasn't
When
here.
you came in, I forgot
Yeah,
to go
I think
in
that-
and
Gotcha.
check you. And
Gotcha.
it was an innocent mistake.
Yeah,
It
totally
just-
forgot
it's
about
Just
that.
a second.
I can just tell you.
Let me get the motion back in.
My internet disappeared.
She already.
Ms. Franklin was opposed. Mr. Trebaka, can you remind me of your vote, please?
I voted yes on the whole plan,
Thank you.
obviously not on the very end of it.
Okay. Ms. Cass,
No.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Karan,
Yes,
motion carries.
So I didn't get asked again.
Oh, I knew yours. I have you in as opposed. I remembered yours. I couldn't remember Mr. Trebaka. Would you like for me to run through everybody from the top?
I cannot understand what you said.
See, I got left out because I came in late, and so she had to redo it, but she remembered what you voted. so
I
she
had
didn't have-
remembered yours.
yeah.
I'm happy to run through everyone from the top.
She's good.
Okay.
And something I'm gonna need to know based on this last piece here is, and you don't have to decide tonight, you know, if y'all would like to let myself or Ms. Karan know, is we still have discussion points 16 through
Yeah.
23 that we can make a decision on during the August 4th board meeting. So if you all would like to actually do an official vote for every single one of those, please let Ms. Karan know, or we could continue with having consensus.
So then we can vote on it at the end. I don't
Ma'am?
understand.
Ma'am?
So-
I can't-
I said,
Wait,
that-
wait.
To me, that makes no sense. I thought that's just what happened here is that we voted on all of those things in one bundle.
We did
And
not
We
vote
did.
for.
we have
did
not finished
vote
all the questions.
because we
The
didn't
remainder
go
of the
through
questions,
six-
yeah,
yeah.
we decided when we amended the agenda that 16 through 23, since it's part of the school calendar, that we could come back and finalize that on August 4th.
Yeah.
So
we can
I'll
vote
just
for
need to
them
know, do y'all
individually.
want to do a vote on every single calendar piece? And that's whatever whatever you decide. That's fine.
I think that would be easiest.
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
Just keep it simple.
Yep,
So
we'll just
now
vote
we
on every
need to-
single
Always done.
one.
So move on with the agenda. Next item is custodian shortage.
What?
With the agenda, we're continuing with the agenda.
When you approved the meeting extension, you approved all of the other agenda items as well.
Mhm.
I didn't hear what she said.
It has been 2 hours since anyone interested.
Oh, I
in a
see
break.
what you're saying. Oh.
Yeah, we gotta.
Well,
finish.
this the boards will then meet another time or extend more.
I mean,
I
we've
would-
got some things we have to approve on here.
Yeah. we
Yeah,
just
I
need to
mean,
go
that's
ahead
what
and
I,
finish
that's what I'm
at this
assuming,
point.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what my assumption was. So the next item is custodian shortage that we have to address. That-
Okay, so the custodian shortage is, you know, basically we are recommending to raise the starting pay for custodians to $13 an hour.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We approve that.
Okay. Next, we have grants for approval. One is the expanding the STEAM bot grant. And of course, any of these grants, if Dr. Schultz is here, if you'd like to know more about them. But first, we need approval on the STEAM bot grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
STEM bot is approved.
Okay, next, Appalachian K-12 STEM Partnership
So moved.
Grant.
Second.
Motion and second, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? And moving to grant number G.
Right. The
or
grant, we
let it
need
be?
approval, and this is very important for the the daycare, childcare situation. CMS Boys and Girls Club and SMS EMHS Boys and Girls Club for this year. We need an approval for that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussions, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
All right, thank you. Next is Project Hope for the New River Valley. We need an approval of that grant.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? We're
Okay.
moving on.
All right, next is the Information Technology Pathway to the Profile of Virginia Graduate Grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We have that one.
Okay, we have policies for first reading. These are all the policies, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Drake, these are all the policies that are due to legislation.
Mhm.
This is just a first reading legislation. Take a look at those. I'll ask for approval next time. We don't have much choice because it's actually in the Code of Virginia, these changes. So next is approval of the title applications. We need those approved.
So moved.
So this was
Second.
the first time we've seen those?
No, this
The
is,
policies or the title applications?
Can't understand anything, I'm sorry.
Policies.
The policies or the title applications?
Right, this is the first time we've seen those?
The policies, yes, ma'am, and they'll come back on August 4th for your approval. The title applications, I emailed them to you about a week and a half ago.
Right,
They were inadvertently left out
right.
Right.
of the previous ones,
But
and that's
with-
why we needed the approval tonight.
but it's the first time that we've seen it.
No, the first time we've seen it is when she emailed it to us.
The first time that it's been on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
for us
correct.
To review.
That's correct, because they've been missed out. I think last time we approved the Title I applications, and I think they have
A deadline.
deadline.
Barbara or Annie? Sorry.
Yes, when we brought forward the plans last month for review, I shared with you that we had left those out and that we would be emailing them at that time. We did request an extension from the state, but we do need to get those federal applications into them.
Do I have did I have a motion? Anybody motion?
I have a
I did.
motion, but not a second.
Okay,
Second. Thank you.
thank you. Any questions? Anything to ask, Ms. Whitaker? Then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We
Okay.
approve them.
All right, next is we need approval of the gifted plan.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions?
Yeah, I think I would like to have more conversation about the gifted plan.
Okay.
Not now. I would like, if possible, I'd like to push it.
Sure. What's the
forward to
what's
the
the
next
deadline on that,
Deadline?
Barbara?
Well,
Okay.
September 8th.
But now we have time. Yep.
So can it come back on
Is
August
Yeah.
that
4th?
possible?
We'll come back.
I just would rather not just.
I'm fine with holding off on that.
A point of
Um,
order. A point of order, Dr. Meyer.
Say again. we s-
Just a point of order, Ms. Bond and Ms. Graham need to withdraw their motion and their
Okay.
second in order for us to do that. Thank you very much.
Everybody's
Thank
okay
you.
with talking about it later?
I think it deserves conversation.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do too.
I
Yep.
agree. The next bunch are our consent agenda items, and they are the grant proposals. If you don't have any question, you don't want to pull it anything out, they are, we approve them as bundle. And moving to financial reports, first one is payment of bills 2019-2020 fiscal year. May I have a motion to approve our bills?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions regarding them? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? We approve one set, and the other one is payment of the bills in the new fiscal year, 2020-2021. May I have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any discussions? Not all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? We approve our bills. The next item, unfinished business. Any unfinished business?
Oh, yes. So there was a message sent out about the implicit bias development for the board. Where are we at with that?
Ms. Diggs, I believe that has been scheduled, right? That training, the ABAR training?
Yes, we have our training scheduled for the month of September and October.
Right, and so you're gonna just send those dates out to us?
Is that what you all?
No,
And
no.
I think they are, I send out, and I don't think I heard from all board members, but I know I heard from you, Ms. Franklin, and I know I replied. I can't remember now, top of my head who responded, but I think my understanding from Ms. Diggs and Dr. Meyer, it's going to be in the form of Zoom. And we can participate in either of the meeting dates that is available. Am I right? Yeah,
No. I would ask that this be put on the agenda for discussion.
sure.
Because I think this is something that the board needs to go through. We need to be in person doing this along with central office staff. So we'll put it on the agenda for next 2 weeks, please.
Well, we'll discuss that the next time around. We'll put it on the agenda and we'll, make sure that every board member pitches in and tells us which way they want to participate. And I think I would like to find out why it's not in person form, maybe because we can't gather that many people yet. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
yes,
have
we
to-
can. If it's the board and central office staff, yes, we can. We can have 250 people.
All right. It will be on the agenda to see if that's the will of the board. Any new business?
I had one thing that has come up a couple times now recently, and I think it came up the first time about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's the issue of our dress code and how it treats the I believe it's the black power. I'm not sure exactly what the exact language is in the dress code, but I think it was when the board made the decision on the Confederate flag symbols, and I think maybe they also banned black power symbols or something
Black
like that.
Lives
And I think
Matter.
that's something that we've been asked to look at again, and it is something that I think we had a discussion, or at least I had a discussion with some people about 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it might be worth revisiting.
I'd even add, we had the students when they were here, they had those, I don't want to say demands because that's not the right word, but ideas they brought up, and we've never really discussed them or really responded to that. I feel like we should have done that.
Well, I'll say this.
And I know a lot of stuff has happened over the last.
Yeah,
2 weeks.
we have responded. We actually had a meeting with the
Did- oh.
students
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
last Thursday. Ms.
Yeah.
Karan was there, Dr. Johnson, Ms. Diggs, Ms.
Oh.
Whitaker, and we're actually meeting with them every week on
Okay.
Thursdays at 1:00. And we're going through those and talking about it and having dialogue. And Mr. Baca, we talked about that, I think at that meeting too, right? The other day. So what we can do is, possibly bring even a first reading and a suggestion and changing that policy to the next meeting. To get that changed prior to school, it would have to come to the next meeting for 2 readings.
Yeah.
To eliminate that wording if that's the wish of the board.
I'd like to see it happen quick. Whatever the board decides, I think it should happen quickly since we're starting school relatively soon, and in the current climate, it might be a factor.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have 2 meetings before.
Yeah, we got-
before, September 8th. So
Right. So we have to have, we have 2 meetings.
Yeah. 4th and I had to look meeting
First.
dates. Yeah, 4th and 18th August.
Right.
Before all September.
So we have to have, yeah, so we need to get it to you next meeting with the first
In fact,
reading.
there's September
of
1st
revision.
too. I mean, we have 3 meetings.
Well, the September meeting's the first day of school.
September 1st.
Oh, it's September 1st. That's
First,
right.
yeah.
So we do have a third.
So you have
okay.
actually 3 meetings
Okay, good.
with this.
Yeah, I'm
with
sorry, I
this
was-
plan.
We got all this extra time. That's good. All right.
Any announcements and information? And upcoming school board meetings, 4th and 18th of August, September 1st and 15th. And now I need a motion to approve our personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? Then please, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? We approve our personnel reports. And I think this long meeting is adjourned. And it is 1:35.
Thanks, everyone.
37.
Okay, 37. I look at the wrong watch. I think that was slow.
I don't think we've ever had one this long.